Last night, while you slept, something hijacked your body. Your heart slammed to over 160 beats per minute. Your lungs pulled air like you were sprinting. Your muscles flooded with adrenaline. Your blood pressure spiked. Most people think they know why. A bad dream, the brain playing tricks, meaningless noise from a sleeping mind. Nothing real, nothing worth understanding. That is not what happened. Your brain ran a program so powerful that your body couldn't tell the difference between a nightmare and something trying to kill you. It paralyzed your muscles so you wouldn't hurt yourself. It encoded the experience into long-term memory using the same chemistry it uses for real trauma. It may have been running a stress rehearsal for something your waking mind hasn't consciously registered yet. And there is one thing it did last night, something that happens in roughly 2% of people, that is an early warning sign of a neurological disease that won't show any other symptoms for another 15 years. Your nightmare was not a dream. It was your brain running its most ancient, most sophisticated survival program. And what that program does to your body every single night is something most people will never be told. To understand what happens during a nightmare, you need to understand what happens to your brain the moment you enter REM sleep. Deep in your brain, the size of an almond, is a structure called the amygdala. Most people think it is a fear detector. That is the simplification. It is a threat relevance filter. Every second you are alive, your brain receives millions of signals: light, sound, temperature, memory, language. The amygdala scans all of it constantly for anything that might mean danger. During waking life, the prefrontal cortex, the rational front of your brain, keeps the amygdala in check. It says, that's just a shadow. That's just a sound. You're safe. During REM sleep, activity in the prefrontal cortex drops by up to 40%. The rational voice that tells you this isn't real gets turned down to almost nothing. The amygdala, meanwhile, becomes more active during REM than it is when you are fully awake. Your threat detector, running at maximum power. Your rational override, almost completely off. You are, neurologically, a fear response system with no filter. Whatever the dreaming brain encounters, a face, a sound, a shape pursuing you, the amygdala treats it as real. Not like real. But here is where it gets stranger. Because your brain does not just respond to the nightmare. It mobilizes your entire body for war. When the amygdala fires, it triggers the hypothalamus, a tiny command center buried at the base of your brain. The hypothalamus activates the sympathetic nervous system. You know this as fight or flight. Adrenaline floods your bloodstream within seconds. Cortisol follows. Your heart rate climbs. Your blood vessels constrict. Blood evacuates your digestive system and rushes to your muscles. Your pupils dilate. Your airways open wider. Your liver dumps stored glucose into your blood. Emergency fuel for sprinting or fighting. Your entire physiology shifts into combat configuration because of a signal from a brain that never left the bed. Scientists call this physiological arousal without external cause. Your body executing a full survival protocol in response to a threat that exists only as electrical signals in a sleeping brain. This is happening to your body tonight. The sweat on the sheets when you wake from a nightmare is not a side effect. It is the physical residue of a genuine biological emergency your body just survived, one it manufactured entirely from nothing while you lay still in the dark. But here is what most people never find out. While your body was doing all of that, your brain was also making sure you couldn't move. During REM sleep, your brain does something that looks almost impossible. It paralyzes you. Not completely. Your eyes still move. That is what REM means. Your heart still beats. Your lungs still breathe. But your brainstem sends signals that actively suppress every voluntary muscle in your body. This is called REM atonia. Think about what that means. The same stage of sleep where your brain generates its most vivid, most emotionally overwhelming experiences is the same stage where it locks your body down so you cannot act on any of them. Scientists believe REM atonia evolved specifically because dreaming became too realistic. When your ancestors dreamed of running from a predator, a body without REM atonia would have run. It would have woken the group, drawn real predators in the dark, caused injury, caused death. So the brain built a cage around itself during dreams. You can still feel the impulse, the desperate need to run, to fight, to scream. But the signal never reaches the muscles. It burns inside you, trapped, while the nightmare runs its course. This is happening to your body tonight. That feeling of being frozen in a nightmare, the legs that won't move, the scream that won't come, is not a failure of your body. It is your brain's most sophisticated protective mechanism working exactly as designed. You are being held still for your own survival. Now let's talk about what happens when the cage breaks. For roughly 2% of the population, REM atonia fails. The motor suppression doesn't engage, and when these people dream, they move. Not twitches, not small tremors. People with REM sleep behavior disorder have been documented punching, kicking, shouting, leaping from beds, running across rooms, all while completely asleep. One man broke his wife's arm during a nightmare. Another broke 4 ribs hitting the floor. And here is the part that stays with you. When researchers studied this condition, they found something nobody expected. In 80 to 90% of cases, REM sleep behavior disorder is not a sleep problem. It is an early neurological warning sign, a precursor to Parkinson's disease. Up to 15 years before any tremor, any stiffness, any motor symptom appears, the cells in the brainstem responsible for REM atonia begin to degenerate. The movements in the night are not the disease. They are the disease announcing itself a decade and a half early, which means a nightmare is not just a nightmare. It is your motor system speaking. Think about what that means. Every night while you sleep, your brainstem is running a self-diagnostic, checking whether the cage still holds, whether the paralysis engages correctly, whether the system that protects you from yourself is still intact. And for most people it is. But for some, the check is already starting to fail, and the nightmare is the only thing telling them. There is one more thing happening while the nightmare runs. Something that explains why you can wake from a bad dream and carry the grief of it for hours, even when you know consciously it wasn't real. When the amygdala fires at maximum intensity, it sends a signal to the hippocampus, your brain's memory-forming center. The hippocampus filters experience. High emotional content gets priority encoding. It gets written into long-term memory. During a nightmare, the amygdala is firing at the same intensity it would fire during a real traumatic event. The hippocampus receives that signal. It does not know the event was fictional. The emotional signature is identical. So it treats the nightmare the same way it would treat a real catastrophe. It begins encoding. This is why nightmare memories feel more vivid than real memories from the same night. This is why dreaming about losing someone can leave you grieving them all morning. Not because you are confused, not because the dream felt real, because to the part of your brain that writes memory, the lost signal it received was real. Your brain wrote down something that never happened in the same ink it uses for things that did. This is happening to your body tonight. The grief you feel after a nightmare about losing someone is not irrational. It is chemically identical to grief from a real loss. Your hippocampus encoded both using the same process, the same hormones, the same neural pathways. Your emotions are responding to a real memory. The event that created it just never happened. So why does the brain do any of this? Why construct a terror so convincing that your body mobilizes for survival? Why encode the memory as real? Why run this program night after night, decade after decade, without being asked? Most people assume nightmares are malfunction. Stress leaking through, anxiety finding an outlet, the brain misfiring. The evidence suggests the opposite. The leading theory in sleep neuroscience today, developed by researchers at the University of Geneva and supported by studies across multiple institutions, is that nightmares serve a precise function. They are emotional rehearsal. Your sleeping brain uses the safety of unconsciousness to run threat simulations, to expose the amygdala to fear in a controlled environment, to rehearse the physiological response, the spike, the paralysis, the terror, so that when it happens in waking life, the body has already run the drill. Researcher Rosalind Scaringe at the University of Geneva found that people who experienced more fear-evoking dreams showed measurably lower emotional reactivity to threatening stimuli when awake. Their nightmares were not symptoms of fragility. They were the mechanism producing resilience. And there is something stranger still. Nightmare frequency increases before major life stressors, job losses, relationship collapses, health scares. Before the conscious mind has fully registered the threat, before you have decided to worry, the brain is already running rehearsals. Not because it is broken, because it is preparing you. Go back to last night. While you slept, something hijacked your body. Now you know what it was. It was your amygdala, running at full power with no rational override, treating a fiction as a life-threatening emergency. It was your hypothalamus flooding your bloodstream with adrenaline and redirecting your blood supply toward muscles that never needed to move. It was your brainstem holding your body completely still, so the emergency response inside you didn't injure the people sleeping beside you. It was your hippocampus writing the experience into long-term memory as if it were real, because the emotional signal it received was indistinguishable from real. And underneath all of it, a function so ancient it predates language, predates civilization, predates the modern human brain itself. Your sleeping mind was rehearsing everything it is afraid you might face, preparing you, without asking, without your permission, every single night. So the next time you wake in the dark, heart slamming, hands shaking, the nightmare still burning behind your eyes, know this. Your brain just ran one of the most sophisticated programs in the history of biological life on this planet. It paralyzed your body to protect you. It mobilized every system you have for survival. It encoded the experience so you would carry it forward. It rehearsed your fear so it would hurt less when it finds you awake. And then, when it was done, it released you back into consciousness. In seconds, without you asking, without you knowing. The terror was real. The threat was not. And the system that manufactured both has been running every night for longer than our species has had a word for fear.